Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This time we're heading to Southeast Asia for a deep dive into Vietnam's economic outlook for 2025.
Sounds exciting.
It is, and you've given me a ton of material to go through: reports from HSBC and UOB, analysis from the Vietnam Institute for Economic and Policy Research, even whispers about NVIDIA's potential moves there. We've got everything from broad economic forecasts down to the nitty-gritty of Vietnam's individual industries.
We'll have lots to talk about for sure.
Absolutely. Our goal today is to help our listeners understand what's driving Vietnam's economy, where the opportunities are, and what challenges they might face.
Let's jump right in then, shall we?
Yeah, let's start with the big picture, those GDP growth predictions. It's pretty interesting to see such a range of forecasts for 2025s, right?
It is, yeah.
HSBC is predicting 6.5% growth, which they say would make Vietnam the fastest growing among the six largest Southeast Asian economies. But then you have UOB forecasting 7%. They actually revised their initial estimate upwards.
Right, and it doesn't stop there.
Right.
The Vietnam Institute for Economic and Policy Research, VEPR, is even more optimistic, predicting somewhere between 7.5 and 8% growth.
Wow. Okay.
And get this, even Vietnam's National Assembly, who initially targeted 6.5 to 7%, has jumped on the optimism train and is now aiming for at least 8%.
So we've got predictions ranging from 6.5 all the way to 8%. That's a pretty big spread. What's causing this? Is everyone just guessing, or are there actual factors driving these different predictions?
Well, I don't think it's just random guesses. These different forecasts reflect just how complex the situation is, with all the global and domestic forces at play. There's no doubt that Vietnam has some serious advantages pushing it forward.
Like the China plus one strategy,
Yeah.
right? Companies wanting to diversify away from China and seeing Vietnam as a good alternative.
Exactly. Lower labor costs, strategic location in Southeast Asia, and a government that's really working to make things easier for businesses. All these make Vietnam very attractive for companies looking to relocate their manufacturing. But there's even more to it than just those cost savings.
I was just going to say that our sources mentioned that global giants like Samsung, Apple, and Lego are already heavily invested in Vietnam.
They are, and now there are even rumors about NVIDIA thinking about setting up shop there too.
So it's not just that Vietnam is a cheaper option. It's also becoming a key player in its own right.
Exactly.
And all of this is bringing in a huge amount of foreign direct investment, FDI.
Yes, it is.
But if everyone's so bullish on Vietnam, why aren't all the forecasts predicting like 10% growth or even higher?
Well, that's where those potential roadblocks come in. And one of the biggest concerns hanging over Vietnam's economy is the possibility of U.S. trade protectionism.
That's right. Our sources pointed out that a second Trump administration could mean more tariffs on Vietnamese goods.
Yeah, and that would be a huge blow, especially since exports are such a big part of Vietnam's GDP.
So even with all the positive momentum, a trade war with the U.S. could really mess things up.
Oh, absolutely. UOB experts specifically warned about this. They said any slowdown in U.S. demand or increased trade tensions could directly hurt Vietnam's manufacturing and service sectors.
Which is a problem when exports make up something like 90% of their GDP.
Right, exactly. And I think all this uncertainty is why some of those growth predictions are a bit more conservative, Analysts are trying to figure out how these global trade dynamics will actually play out.
Makes sense. It's like Vietnam is trying to walk a tightrope. On one side, there's all this incredible potential for growth driven by FDI and manufacturing. But then on the other side, they're having to balance all that with these tricky global trade relations, especially with the U.S.
I like that. Yeah, a tightrope walk. That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so we got the global picture. But what about things within Vietnam itself? Are there any internal challenges that could slow down their progress?
There are, and our sources mentioned regulatory delays as a recurring issue.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Dr. Santiago Velasquez from RMIT University of Vietnam pointed out that these delays are seriously impacting key infrastructure projects and renewable energy initiatives.
So even though the government is trying to invest in those areas, the bureaucracy is slowing things down.
Exactly. And that makes investors nervous and makes the whole economy less efficient. It's like having a powerful car engine but a bad transmission that keeps it from reaching its top speed.
Okay, I see. So we've talked about the engine, so to speak, but what about the transmission Vietnam's financial system? Any internal challenges on that front?
There are some, and our sources highlighted them as well. The State Bank of Vietnam, the SBV, is having a tough time managing the differences in global interest rates and the fact that people in Vietnam still use a lot of U.S. dollars.
Okay, so how does that affect the SBV's ability to manage the economy?
Think of it this way. You're trying to steer a ship in rough waters, but your rudder isn't working properly. That's the challenge the SBV faces.
So what you're saying is that global interest rates and all those U.S. dollars floating around are making it harder for them to control Vietnam's own interest rates and keep the currency stable.
Exactly. It's like their hands are tied.
So this is all starting to sound a lot more complicated than those initial optimistic growth predictions.
It is, yeah. Vietnam's economic future in 2025 isn't straightforward. We've got powerful growth drivers with all that FDI in Vietnam's strategic location, but we've also got these looming trade tensions and internal roadblocks that could really throw things off course.
Almost like a tug of war between those different forces.
Exactly. Understanding that dynamic is key for anyone trying to figure out what's going to happen in Vietnam. But we're only scratching the surface here. There's another really important factor we haven't even mentioned yet: domestic consumption.
Right, right. I was just thinking that. Several of our sources mentioned weak domestic consumption as a big risk factor for Vietnam's economy.
And this ties back to the idea of a dual-engine growth model that Dr. Velasquez talked about. He argued that Vietnam can't just rely on exports. They need to build a strong domestic market, too.
So not just being the world's factory, but also having Vietnamese people buying more goods and services within Vietnam.
Exactly. This would not only make their economy more stable, less affected by things like trade wars, but it would also create a more balanced kind of growth that helps a wider range of people in Vietnam.
Okay, I'm starting to see the full picture. Vietnam has amazing potential, but it's not a guaranteed success story. Their future depends on balancing global factors with smart changes within the country.
You got it. And that leads us to the next part of our deep dive. We've looked at the big picture, but now let's get specific and explore what all this means for people who want to invest in Vietnam. Where are the opportunities in 2025? How can our listeners navigate this complex landscape?
That's what we'll be talking about after a quick break. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've spent some time setting the stage for Vietnam's economy in 2025, talking about all that exciting potential and some of the real challenges they're facing. But now let's get down to brass tacks. What does all this mean for investors, for people like our listeners?
Well, we've got these reports from Vina Capital and Vietnam Briefing that give us some really interesting insights. They highlight a few sectors that could be particularly hot in 2025.
Okay, cool. Let's break it down sector by sector then. Vina Capital is super bullish on banking and finance, predicting earnings growth of 17% in 2025.
Wow, that's a big jump. And it kind of makes sense when you think about it, right?
How so?
Well, as Vietnam's economy grows, the demand for financial services naturally grows too. More people buying stuff, more infrastructure projects, a recovering real estate market, all that fuels the need for banking and finance.
So it sounds like investing in bank stocks is a no-brainer then.
Well, hold on a second. While the sector as a whole looks promising, picking the right bank stocks is a bit more nuanced than that.
Okay, what do you mean? What should investors be looking for when they're trying to evaluate bank stocks in Vietnam?
Focus on banks that have a good track record. Solid management, a strategy that aligns with Vietnam's growth drivers.
Give me an example.
Sure, like a bank that's heavily involved in lending to businesses and infrastructure development or those making consumer goods.
Okay, so riding the wave of those key growth sectors, what about banks that are investing in digital banking solutions?
Yeah.
Vietnam is pushing for a digital economy. Wouldn't that be a smart move?
Oh, absolutely. Vietnam has a really young population that's very comfortable with technology, and the government is really encouraging online banking and cashless payments.
So banks that are ahead of the curve in that digital transformation could really benefit.
For sure.
Okay, so banking and finance got it. Now what about real estate? Our sources were cautiously optimistic about a recovery in Vietnam's real estate market.
Yeah, they were. CBRE, in their 2025 Asia-Pacific Real Estate Market Outlook, said that investor sentiment is improving.
Okay, that's good, right?
It is, but they also stress that you got to be really careful. The real estate market in Vietnam isn't all the same. Yields are expected to be different across different markets and sectors.
So it's not just about jumping into any real estate opportunity that comes along.
Exactly. Be selective, focus on companies that have good financials and are developing projects in areas where there's a lot of demand.
I'm guessing places like Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, where most of the economic activity is, would be pretty safe bets.
They're definitely good starting points, but you should also look at developers who are focusing on industrial and logistics real estate.
Ah, right, because those sectors are supposed to grow a lot as Vietnam's manufacturing and trade activities expand.
Precisely. Investing in companies that are meeting those needs could be a very smart move.
Okay, so we've talked about banking, finance, and real estate. Now let's talk about something I'm personally really interested in. E-commerce. Vietnam has a large and young population, and they're shopping online more and more. Our sources were super optimistic about this sector.
As they should be. Vietnam Briefing predicted that the e-commerce market in Vietnam could hit $35 billion with a B by 2025. And, the government is really behind it, promoting online shopping and those cashless payments, which just adds fuel to the fire.
But of course, when a sector is growing that fast, it also means there's a lot of competition.
Oh, absolutely. You've got the big regional players, Shopee and Lazada, battling it out. And then you have all these local companies trying to grab their piece of the pie, too. It's pretty wild out there.
So if an investor wants to get in on that e-commerce action, what should they be looking for?
Look for companies that have a clear advantage, something that sets them apart. A strong brand, a unique product, a really good logistics network, or a combination of all of those things. It's not just about being the biggest. It's about doing something better or serving a specific niche really well.
So really understanding each company's strategy is key.
Absolutely. And don't forget to look at their financials. Like, are they increasing revenue and market share in a sustainable way?
So explosive growth is great, but they've got to be able to turn that into actual profits.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, e-commerce, check. Now, what about education and training? Our sources mentioned that as a sector with big potential.
They did, and it's all connected to Vietnam's broader goals for economic development. The government is pouring money into modernizing their education system and wants to meet those international standards. They've even got this whole national education development strategy with a vision that goes all the way to 2045.
Wow, that's thinking long term. Where do the investment opportunities fit into all of this?
Well, think about companies that are aligned with those government plans. Are they offering programs in fields that are in high demand, like technology, engineering, business?
So a company that teaches coding skills
Hmm.
or provides vocational training for those advanced manufacturing jobs.
Exactly. Those are the areas where Vietnam really needs skilled workers to keep their economy growing.
What about ed tech companies?
Oh, for sure. Vietnam, like I said, has a young, tech-savvy population. There's huge potential there for innovative companies that are using technology to make education more accessible and more effective.
Okay, so we've covered some really interesting potential investment opportunities in banking, real estate, e-commerce, and education. You mentioned earlier that some sectors kind of fly under the radar, though. What about those? Specifically, things like infrastructure and logistics.
You're right, those are crucial for Vietnam to keep growing, but finding the right investment opportunities there can be tricky.
How come?
Well, a lot of it is dominated by those state-owned enterprises or these huge conglomerates.
So there aren't as many options for individual investors.
Right.
So are these sectors that investors should just avoid altogether?
Not necessarily. You just might have to dig a little deeper, look beyond the most obvious companies. Consider companies that provide, ancillary services to those sectors.
Like what? What kind of companies?
Well, for instance, a company that makes building materials for those big infrastructure projects, or a software company that specializes in logistics management.
Ah, so you get that indirect exposure to those growth sectors without having to invest directly in the big players.
Exactly.
That's smart. Now, what about manufacturing? We know it's a huge part of Vietnam's growth, but isn't it all dominated by giants like Samsung?
Well, yes, the big players are definitely well established, but there's always room for smaller, more nimble companies that can really specialize.
Okay, so not trying to compete head to head with Samsung, but finding those companies that are maybe supplying parts or specialized services to those giants.
Exactly. Think of it like this. If you're a baker, you don't need to build your own massive supermarket. You can focus on supplying those supermarkets with your awesome bread.
I love that analogy. Okay, so find your niche, become the best at it. What about renewable energy? It's a trend everywhere, and Vietnam seems to be getting on board.
They are. Vietnam has tons of potential for solar and wind energy.
So it's a good market for renewable energy investments.
It is, but finding the right opportunities can be a bit of a challenge. These renewable energy projects are often really big and need a ton of money upfront.
Right, so lots of capital. And if a lot of the players are private companies or partially state-owned, that limits the options for public stock investments.
Exactly.
So is investing in renewable energy in Vietnam just too difficult for individual investors?
It can be, yeah. But don't give up. There's another way to get involved in this sector's growth.
Oh.
Think outside of Vietnam. Lots of global companies are involved in wind and solar projects in Vietnam.
So investing in those international companies could be a way to tap into that growth while also diversifying your portfolio geographically.
Precisely.
Okay, that's really helpful. Think outside the box, look for different avenues. It feels like we've covered a lot of ground, from those big economic trends down to specific insights into different sectors.
We have, and it's been really interesting. But before we wrap up this section, I think it's important to say that this is not financial advice. Thorough research, due diligence, maybe even talking to a financial advisor are all really important before you make any investment decisions.
Absolutely. We're just exploring these ideas and sharing our analysis with our listeners. We're not telling anyone what to do with their money.
Exactly. So, with that said, I think we're ready to move on to our final segment where we'll really try to sum up what we've learned in this deep dive and leave our listeners with some things to think about regarding Vietnam's economic future.
Okay, so we've journeyed through Vietnam's economic landscape, analyzed all those promising sectors, and even gotten into some specific stock investment ideas.
Yeah, it's been quite the adventure. But like with any good adventure, it's time to, gather around the campfire and reflect on what we've learned.
I like that. So let's distill all this information down to some key takeaways for our listeners. What's the big picture? What does it all really mean?
I think the overarching story is that Vietnam is at a crossroads. Their economic future has so much potential, but there are some real obstacles in the way.
Yeah, it's like they're holding this compass, but the needle keeps wavering between two different paths.
Exactly. One path leads to becoming like a Southeast Asian economic powerhouse, but the other is full of uncertainty and risk.
Right. And which paths they end up taking depends on their ability to handle all those internal and external pressures.
Right.
So let's go back to those positive forces, the things that are pushing Vietnam forward. What really stood out to you?
Well, definitely those strong FDI inflows, all that money coming in from foreign investors,
Right.
driven by that China plus one strategy. Vietnam is in a great position to capitalize on companies moving their manufacturing out of China.
And it's not just about being cheaper, right? Vietnam is actively trying to make it easier to do business there and attract big players like Samsung, Apple, and maybe even NVIDIA.
Exactly. It's a really powerful combination of factors. But like we discussed, there are also those headwinds, those potential roadblocks that could slow them down.
Yeah, that threat of U.S. trade protectionism is a big one. If those trade tensions get worse, it could seriously hurt their economy, which is so dependent on exports.
For sure. And internally, those regulatory delays and weak domestic consumption are things they need to address if they really want to hit those ambitious growth targets.
It sounds like Vietnam's success really hinges on finding that balance between, taking advantage of global trends and making smart changes within their own country.
You nailed it. And that's where that concept of dual engine growth is so important. Building a strong domestic market alongside their export success. That's the key to a more stable and resilient economy.
And for investors, I guess that's where the real opportunity lies, right? Finding those companies that aren't just riding the current wave, but are getting ready for a future where domestic consumption is a much bigger factor.
Exactly. Those are the companies that are set to thrive as Vietnam's economy evolves.
And of course, diversification is key, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Explore different sectors, different companies, and even think about opportunities outside of Vietnam.
We've highlighted some promising sectors, but like we always say, do your research, understand those fundamentals before investing in any company.
Solid advice. Don't get so caught up in the excitement of potential growth that you forget to be careful.
It's a fascinating story unfolding in Vietnam. They have all the ingredients for success, but we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given our listeners a lot to think about. It's a complex situation, but full of opportunities for those who are willing to do their homework.
I agree. It's been a pleasure exploring all this with you.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll see you next time for another in-depth look at a really interesting topic.